Welcome, everybody, to another interview with Main Event. I am your host, of course, Main Event, and today we're visiting with Digger Doug. How's it going, Digger Doug?
Good, Maven. How's it going with you, bud?
It is going great. It's a beautiful sunny day here in the USA, and whereabouts are you in the world?
Currently, we're sitting in southern Ontario, Canada.
Is it winter there? I heard it's always winter over in Canada.
You know, it's damn near cold all times of the year, but right now we got the AC going.
That's great. I always like to make that joke because I actually live pretty close to Canada. I'm closer to like New Brunswick, that area, and so I like to tease because I actually have a lot of Canadian friends and I've been to Canada quite a few times, so that's pretty cool. And you said you're in Ontario?
Yes, sir. Southern Ontario.
Cool. And so how long have you been on Steemit?
So I got introduced to Steemit just over two months ago, I would say, and I think I let it sit dormant for about a week until I got the understanding of what it really was, and then from there I've kind of just been doing my thing and going forward with it.
Now, was there something in particular that brought you to Steemit, or did you hear about it through friends, or what really brought you to Steemit?
Good question. So basically, about 3 months ago, I got hooked onto cryptocurrency, basically Bitcoin, altcoins, the whole crypto world. And since then, I've just been glued in front of a computer. I've been reading as much as I can, trying to learn everything I can and soak everything in. And through my travels doing all of that, through what I had researched, I did come across Steemit. As well as, I followed a couple guys on YouTube as well, and they brought Steemit up a few times. So I figured, hey, why not check it out? And once I got on there and got reading and got to see what it was all about, it actually just blew my mind, and it blows it every day.
Absolutely. It was the same thing for me as well. I heard about it through a couple of people that were doing YouTube videos, of course, and they were having complaints that they were being censored and things, and so they felt that they could come over to Steemit and at least write about, their content freely. And so I thought, what the heck, these are some people, I like their content, so I wanted to follow them too. So I came over, and then once I saw and discovered what Steemit was, which I still don't really know what to call it. I mean, it's social media, but yet it's a blogging platform. It's such a fascinating tool, don't you think?
Absolutely. I find it's a mixture of everything all thrown into one.
Yeah, it's like you got the currency market in there, you've got the digital currency, but yet you also have this social media platform that you can interact with other people. Now, what are some things that you really like about Steemit?
One of the biggest things I like about Steemit is on a daily basis, I've come across things that in my life, with what I do, they're probably things I'd never come across or never, stop and Google or things along those lines. And a lot of the stuff that comes up is written by, professional people and people who know what they're talking about. So, it's very well written, and a lot of the stuff is just excellent material.
Of course, there are the people out there that are plagiarists and things, but it seems that Steemit has a pretty good system in place with the Steam cleaners and other people that they're kind of getting rid of all that content that shouldn't be there. And so I noticed definitely a lot of entertaining, fun things to read on Steemit, don't you?
It's a big thing too when people first come on here, myself included. The whole plagiarizing idea, I think there's a very fine line between what's plagiarizing and whatnot. And I know I fell victim to it. I would grab a YouTube video and I would discuss that until I got into the idea that it's original content, it's what brings you more followers and more viewers and more basic interaction on the site.
I completely agree. I mean, I understand people wanting to, source images and little GIFs and little funny things to add to their blog. But honestly, when I start seeing like 3-4 pictures in a post that are not original, a lot of times I just click and move on. And I don't mean, ill will to any of those people that do that or anything. It's totally fine. It's just that me personally, if I see somebody not creating a lot of original things in a post, I'm probably not going to sit there and read it.
For sure, and I think too, we find, again, myself included, a lot of new minnows that come here to get that foothold and that grasp of what's going on, it's very easy to just do that. And I think it takes a little bit of time maybe to wrap your head around the concept and get introduced to people that can help you realize that that's not the best.
All right, so we were
way
talking
to,
about some
to
of the
put your
things that you
your
do
best
like
foot
about
forward.
Steemit. Now, are there any things about Steemit that you don't like, that you maybe don't care for?
To be honest, there's not a whole bunch that I don't like or don't care for per se. One of the things that I do wish would would get a little bit of attention would be the search feature on Steemit itself.
So you're thinking you want it to make it easier to find other content? Is that what you're saying?
Yes, it's very helpful as it is now, and I found a lot of useful information just by using the search. But I find it brings up. It would be neat if they could incorporate some sort of system to date or to archive somehow the results that come back, so that you kind of have a time frame of where you're looking, because a lot of stuff loses its relevance sometimes.
Yeah, I noticed that too. A few times when I tried to use the search, it was bringing me up posts like from a year ago. And I remember I was looking up about something about like the Steemit reward system and how it worked, and it brought up something from like a year ago, and I think they had done some kind of a change or a fork since then, and so it wasn't even relevant anymore.
Yeah, you bet. And I find as well with the search, it's not the most user friendly search bar that I've ever used either.
No, definitely not. I mean, don't you agree that there's a lot of things with the Steemit user interface and everything that could definitely be improved?
Oh, for sure, for sure. And you know what? I'm holding faith, and I really think that it will. These things will get addressed over time. As the platform grows.
Yeah, I thought I heard something about that there's another update coming that supposedly is going to include things like communities and maybe some other updates. So maybe we'll see some changes happen at that time.
Yeah, for sure. I heard a little word that there's talks about the new. I think it was the new hard fork coming up.
Yeah, and if anybody's listening out there and you're very familiar with all of that, I know I personally am not. I try to follow the news about it, but if you're somebody who's very familiar with that and you know of a way that we can find out that information, feel free to share that in the chat below. And so, let's see, Digger Doug, what other things would you like to talk about? Like, what are things that you post about on Steemit?
These days, I'm trying to do a lot of stuff that it is geared towards helping other people learn, because that was one of my biggest things when I first got set up and started. I found it very difficult and overwhelming to grasp what you actually need to do. And there's a lot of people you meet that are great to help you with that. It just takes a little bit of time to find and meet those people.
Yeah, I know when I joined, it was kind of, I mentioned this in another interview, that it was basically like the Wild West. You kind of jumped in and it's like, well,
Yeah.
here's some frequently asked questions, and here's kind of like a background of what this is, and hopefully you understand that, and here you go. Go win some Steam dollars or whatever is kind of how I took it. And it was like, okay,
Yeah, for sure.
now were you somebody who had blogged prior to Steemit?
No, you know what? I've never been much for a social media, online, computer tech savvy sort of guy. I've always been a hands-on, mechanically related, technical sort of dude that always worked with his hands. Now, I've always used computers, for different things. I like to design on different design programs and whatnot as well. So I'm learning more, and that's what I enjoy so much about this stuff, is I do find I learn so much interesting stuff that again I probably wouldn't have been introduced to had I stuck around, trade work and things like that. It's like a whole new ball game for me, if that makes sense.
Oh, absolutely. Like I said, I had never blogged at all. I mean, I had done some things for my DJ stuff, made like some little YouTube videos or whatever, or things like that, but I had never
Right.
really done a blog post. And I was somebody who actually, I did like photography, like nature photography in the past, but I I never really got into it too much as like a hobby as far as like putting it all over the internet or trying to like do anything with it. But once Steemit came around, I put some pictures on there that I had taken, and I started getting some really positive feedback. And that was something that really drew me even further into Steemit. It was like, wow, you know, there's people actually out there who find what I'm doing entertaining or interesting, and that was very rewarding. Have you had any of that kind of an experience with Steemit?
Yes, absolutely. That's another great feature that drives me to want to use this and grow on this platform more and more. I had a situation, I'm into a little bit of photography myself, nothing professional or anything really crazy or fancy, but it prompted me to want to buy a drone, one of those fancy drones with the camera on it, and just to get myself more active and more involved with taking some more pictures, visiting some cool places. And it's really been an outlet to do some of that sort of stuff, that travel interesting sort of things.
Yeah, definitely. I know I personally want to get a new camera now that I've been taking a lot more pictures and getting more into that and getting more into doing the blog posts and things. And so, luckily I live in an area where there's a lot of beautiful nature, and so I can share that with other people around the world. And that's really amazing about Steemit, is that you can share things that maybe you might see as everyday common things, but someone across the world might think that's really interesting.
Absolutely. I find too with a lot of the other social media sites, a lot of the people that you chat to that on those platforms are people that or family members or people that you interact with daily or weekly basis. So I find it limits or restricts some of the content you potentially put up just from fear of being judged or many different worries there. Whereas Steemit, not necessarily you can hide behind a name, but you don't have that automatic judgment laid towards what about different things that you post. I find you have more freedom to do and post about anything.
Yes, definitely. Do you have many people that speaking of, like other social media and stuff, do you have many people that on Steemit, or is it mostly people you've never met?
I don't know a single person personally on my Steemit. However, I've talked to, I can say, a whole bunch of you great guys already. But as far as personal people, no.
I don't either. I was making a joke with somebody recently. I actually found somebody I went to college with, and I haven't broke it to them yet that I'm who they, that they know who I am. That's kind of funny. I've kept that as a running joke for a little while. Just to, I'll break it to them eventually, but it'll be kind of funny when I do. But other than that, I have not found anybody on Steemit that's from my area, and I just find that kind of interesting too. So it's funny how the world is bringing us to Steemit. These random individuals, and it'll be interesting to see how much it grows, and if maybe our friends will eventually make it here. Do you think?
I hold big faith and a big hope that one day that will ring true. The whole crypto market, the whole blockchain technology is such a crazy, crazy idea that I'm not sure about you, but I don't know many of my friends or family in my life now that even know too much about, what it even is.
No, and even the Steemit social media aspect of it. I mean, I remember the days going all the way back to, when you started out with like instant messenger programs, and then it evolved into, like MySpace and then Facebook and all this stuff. I remember when nobody had any of that stuff. I remember being like one of the first few people in my circle of friends that got a Facebook and stuff. They're like, "What is that?" And I remember it was, thefacebook.com at that time and stuff. And it's kind of
yes, and it's so crazy how
yeah.
how it takes a lot of stones to do a lot of those things sometimes when you are stepping away from what people are comfortable or people know about.
Yeah, I remember being on there and only having like 10 Facebook friends. And I was like, well, this is kind of cool. I remember it was innovative, and it was like, oh, now we can talk and, do things all in one place. Before you had to, like, have this messenger program or that, AOL account or whatever it was. And that was the first time it all came together, and I feel like Steemit is kind of like the next step now. Now it's beyond just, hey, let's all post our stuff on the internet. Now it's like, hey, we might actually be able to turn this into something that's profitable and that could change our lives.
Absolutely. I mean, to the nuts of it all. I mean, really, the financial aspect is a huge motivating factor for. I think it's fair to say most of us on here. You have that the social interaction, which is great and fantastic, but the fact that you have the opportunity and the chances to actually get paid to do so is it's mind blowing. And I try to tell people about that, and people, it's a very hard concept to spew at somebody and have them understand and hop on board with, agree with everything you're saying right away, simply for the fact that there's been a lot of this sort of ideology out there already. So, and I think that gives people these notions that it's all, it's just another this or it's just another that. But I think people are really underestimating what could potentially come from this sort of technology. Steam, it's fantastic.
I know I see people. I still have a Facebook account, and I see my friends on there. And I mean, I haven't gone out of my way to bring them to Steemit yet. I should, but I notice some of them post really funny, interesting stuff. Right? I mean, like they'll put a picture on there with like a funny caption, and it's like, wow, that's really funny. If they would elaborate on that a little bit, they could turn that into a Steemit post so easily. Or some other thing that they're sharing on there, or some trip that they went on, or some experience that they had, but they're just putting it on Facebook. Yeah, they got 50 likes on it. Big deal. Like it doesn't do anything for you. Whereas if they would bring that to Steemit, yeah, if they would bring that to Steemit, wow, they could turn that experience into something even bigger.
Oh, big time. And I find too. The group of friends that I keep on Facebook and Instagram, for example, there's such a wide array of talent, spread out across those platforms. And like you say, if they were only to bring some of that stuff to Steemit, I mean, it's just unreal, some of the stuff that has potential from some of the friends and people that I keep in contact with on these social sites.
I don't know what the answer is. I noticed some other people trying to create like video ads to play on Facebook and places like that to promote Steam. I just don't know what the best approach is. Do you have any thoughts on that? Like what people could do to maybe bring their friends to Steemit? And if anybody's listening, of course, out there, and you're in the chat and you would like to chime in, feel free. What are some ideas you could do to maybe bring people to Steemit? Any suggestions?
Yes, my big thing now would be to keep going with, my goal now is to keep posting original content and to keep meeting people and to keep learning, to sort of work at mastering the Steemit trade in a sense. And with completing that, or with making progress with that, will come obviously rewards. And I think with that, you could take that and show people. I know for myself personally, if I was to see somebody or talk to somebody on the phone or in person, they said, "Hey, come try this or come check this out," I would say, "Yeah, sure," and I would give it a brief look. But if I had somebody come to me and say, "Hey, come check this out," I just I put a post about my trip to Bermuda, and I got paid $32 for that. That would be something that would say, "Hey, Digger, sit down. What is this all about?"
Definitely. I haven't done that to any of my friends, so I'll have to try that approach. I mean, some of my posts I've done pretty well with. I mean, I haven't had any like $100 posts yet or anything, but even just some simple, photography related posts or other things that, like I said, I have lots of other friends who take great pictures, and they probably lead far more interesting lives than I do. So they could definitely be talking about their experiences and the things they're doing. And I just need to find an easy way to approach them about that, because you don't want to seem weird either. Like, hey, go put your stuff on this website that's cryptocurrencies and all this stuff. Because the average person is going to look at you.
We've all done that already once or twice. Well, I mean, I know I have.
Yeah, they're going to look at you sideways and be like, "What is that all about?"
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is to just uh, keep going with creating original content, stuff that's good, stuff that's interesting, stuff that is relatable to semi like-minded people, or for people out there who are just it may be something that they have no idea about, and you can maybe spread your knowledge on different things that you're good at talking about, right?
So, Digger Doug, what are some other projects or things that you're working on within Steemit?
Alrighty. Well, I'm like I said, I'm not the most tech savvy guy, so I'm not going to be creating any bots or any automated programs to help me, make my way here. It's not my forte as of just yet. Maybe one day. So I've come up with a basic idea now. I want to try and cross-reference users between the Discord Pal network and the Steemit network, because I know, for the most part, I know most people's names on Discord chat are the same as they are on Steemit, but there are a few users who use a different Discord name versus their Steemit name. So I was just trying to come up with a way to cross-reference the two platforms together. So I came up with a post today where I'm just kind of basically got two lists of usernames with who is who in different channels.
I'm looking at that right now. So you've named it Discord Pal Network Chat Names and Who You Are on Steemit, a quick reference guide for who's who. And of course, I see my name on there, so I feel like I'm important today. I'm a who's who on your post. So
now, if you were to pop up just two more posts, there's another one where I made it a little bit more, hopefully aesthetically pleasing.
Oh, yes, I see that one too. Yes, okay. Yeah, we'll take a look at that one. Yes.
So this is kind of something here. I mean,
oh, yes.
Like I say, I'm just kind of wondering, testing the waters to see if anyone would be interested in, having their name put on the list like this, just for a quick reference for other users.
I think they would. I mean, if Discord has been one of the biggest things for me for Steemit. Discovering Discord was huge because I've interacted with so many more people through it and through the voice chats and everything else that I think if more new users learned about Discord right at the beginning, I think they would have a huge leg up on everybody else.
You know what? Maybe I'd tell you, if I didn't find my way to the Discord chat here, I would not be at the same spot, the same level I'm at now. It's been a godsend for Steemit for me.
Absolutely. Do you want to talk about that a little bit? Like what brought you to Discord? Was it a certain user, or was it a group that you joined, or?
You know what? I'll be honest. I can't even remember when I first divulged myself into Steemit, into learning what to do and how to get started. I read so much and I listened and watched so many things that I can't even remember how I made my way over to Discord. But I do remember when I arrived at Discord and I did my registration, I followed all that. The two people on there that welcomed me right away were Crimson Clad and Samo SK. They were the first two fantastic friends that I've made on Discord Pal Network now, that were the first to introduce me and say hello.
Well, that's very nice of them, and they're, of course, in the Pal Network, correct?
That's correct, yes.
Now, are there any other users out there that you want to give a shout-out to or say hello to that maybe are maybe out there listening, or somebody you just want to recognize that's helped you along the way?
Oh, for sure. I want to give a shout-out to everybody on the Pal Network that said, taking the time to say, hey, Doug, or sorry, hey, Digger, or answer any of my questions, or engage with any interactions with me there. I want to give a big shout out and a big thank you to you guys out there. And Sir Cork, he's been another very big inspiration for me. I know he's helped me out a lot, and this new project he's got going with the radio station there is, I basically let that radio station run all day, all night on my computer now.
Well, we're happy to hear that. Yeah, and I know the other users are always happy to hear, when they're helping somebody. I know a lot of them are working very hard on that server to help the new users and to, do everything they can to help guide them in the right direction.
Absolutely. If it wasn't for everybody putting that hard work and that effort into getting this off the ground, I mean, we wouldn't be talking here today. You know, I also want to give another shout out to for the DJs on the show as well, because I've often thought about the idea of maybe trying to hop in a spot and engage in discussion, but that's a very daunting task. So I give I tip my hat and give my respect to you and all the other DJs out there that actually spend the time every week and have given up their time for this opportunity to have themselves heard on this radio station. So I just want to give a big thanks there as well.
Definitely. I know most of us here that are involved with that, it's our passion. A lot of us have done it for a long time, working in radio or working as a DJ and in other fashions, or working with news outlets or whatnot. So, we are happy to do that for you, and we're happy to do that for the Steemit community at large. Now, is there any other projects in Steemit that you're involved with or that you want to mention or anything?
As far as projects go, not really right now. There are a couple of the contests that that are really interesting, and I'm looking at taking part in those as the time goes on now. But my main focus now is to keep coming up with good content. I keep a constant list going of different ideas that I could post about, or different places that I could go visit and maybe take some pictures or. So I'm constantly trying to come up with good ideas for good content, as well as keep up on my curating skills. I'm trying to make a conscious effort now to not be that guy that just posts everything and only comments on one or two other posts. So I'm really trying to make an effort to put my feet out there and comment more and upvote more and try and get engaged with more people on this platform, especially people who were like me, trying to find their way or struggling to make their way, because user retention for Steemit is ultimately the number one factor to if it's going to work or not, and that's another big issue as well, right?
I've heard the numbers very low. One of my other guests mentioned a number that was like sub 10%. I don't know if that's accurate or not, but for new user retention, seems like a low number. I mean, it seems like most people I've interacted with have joined and they really, really love it. If anything, they're on Steemit too much. But
I know I'm one of those.
Yeah, maybe we're just the small percent. I'm not sure, but I
think it's one of those things that time will. I mean, with time, you'll get that gravitation of people that will come and eventually see that it's not a get rich quick scheme, or it's not a scam. You'll get people that will start investing more serious time.
Now, what is your thought on? It seems like there's kind of like this subculture of Steemit, right? Where you've got people who, of course, demand and expect you to have wonderful content in your post, and then you, of course, have the other end of the spectrum where it's the guy just putting up a YouTube video and doesn't write anything. Where do you think the balance lies? Because, I mean, I agree with the people that want to see good original content, of course. I'm 100% for original content. But do you think it will ever be able to be portrayed to these new users that Steemit is not just another Instagram? It's not just another, hey, this is what I'm having for dinner post like you do on Facebook or something? Like, do you think people will ever truly get that when they first arrive, or do you think there's always just going to be that sub-level of posts that are very basic?
That's a good question too. I think, in my opinion, Steemit is so young, and they are only in their beta stage, right? So if you try and think back about Facebook, for example, when they first started to come to light, there were a lot of things on there that, first of all, were not. There are things now that weren't even thought about back then, and it's come such a long way. Their platform has become so much more visually aesthetic. They've been able to do so much more. The capabilities have grown so much, So that's one of those things. Like I say, with time, I think with time, Steemit will eventually get to that stage. It's just going to take a little bit of sorting it out, if that makes sense, And visual aesthetics and the ability to navigate around a platform easily is a huge thing in keeping, in increasing that user retention. And I think to be honest, because Steemit is only in its beta stage right now, the navigation of the platform, it's not the most user friendly for somebody who is just clicking on it. I know it's a lot to take in, it's a lot to absorb, and try and learn at the same time, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I agree. And I remember when I first was getting on, I did try to go on like YouTube and stuff and try to find some videos that were just like tutorial videos of, what is Steemit, that type of thing. But I didn't really come across any that really spelled it out. So maybe that's a need out there, that maybe somebody really needs to create some simple but thorough explanation videos or tutorials to really, because I know the videos I watched, they didn't mention Discord chat, they didn't mention Steemit.chat, they didn't mention any of that stuff. It was basically like, well, this is how you post, and you might earn some money this way or whatever.
Yeah, for sure. And I noticed too, a lot of the big name whales out there, or the Steemit users that have been around for a long time, a lot of them have videos out there on YouTube and different platforms. And before I got introduced to Steemit, I did watch a few of these videos, but as somebody who didn't know what the blockchain really was or what Steemit actually really was, I found I was just watching another guy or another lady on YouTube talking about something that is just another one of those quote unquote, other social media sites. It's hard to grasp that fact without having a basic understanding that you actually have the potential to make a financial reward with this platform.
Steemit requires thought. I was sitting here listening and thinking while you were talking, and that's really what I think what's different from it than, like, say, a Facebook. Facebook, you can literally throw anything on there, right? I mean, you can literally put anything on there. You can share just a pointless picture or whatever. There's no thought behind it. Whereas Steemit, you really got to use your mind, and you got to put something creative on there, and you've got to take the time to format it to make it look good. And so I think that will... It's kind of weeded out the people who are lazy in that department, who are not going to take the time to use their creative juices and get their stuff out there. And so I think that's maybe why the people are so fun to interact with on Steemit, is because they're mostly creative people.
Yes, absolutely. I find on Facebook, the odd time that I do go and browse just for something to do. I mean, I don't do that often now these days, in all honesty. But when I used to just go and browse to see what was out there, there was a lot of, I'm going to use the word negativity in a broad sense of the word. I mean, there was a lot of negative comments. There's a lot of bashing. There's a lot of I'm right, you're wrong, you're right, I'm wrong, sort of nonsense going on between users on these other social media sites, Facebook, for example. And there's no sort of accountability for that. And that's where I think you get a lot of trolling and a lot of negativity towards that doesn't get anybody anywhere. There's a lot of useless, mindless, barbaric banter it's just more bashing than anything. And I think you'll find when you come across to Steemit, there's less of that because there's more of a reputation to uphold, because with that reputation comes a financial reward. So I mean, if you're going to be that guy out there that's trolling or bashing everything everybody has to say, you're not going to find it very easy to meet new people that want to interact with you. I think it becomes very difficult at that point.
Definitely. I know the majority of people I've interacted with on Steemit were very friendly, very helpful. I don't know if I'm trying to think. I really haven't come across anybody that really gave me a hard time, that made fun of me for not knowing what I was doing. 99% of the people I've interacted with have been all very friendly.
Same with me here, and I think that's because people here, they're united towards a common goal, which is to ultimately succeed, right? I think when you get to these other platforms, you register and you sign up your name, and that's sort of it. You can. I do think that Facebook has its place. Like, I mean, a guy like myself, for example, I have my mom, my dad, my sister, my brother on Facebook, right? So, and I'm not always close to them, so it gives me that chance to share content with those people out there. So I think it does have its place in a sense, because I know I'm not going to grab all my family members and my friends and immediately bring them over to Steemit. So I don't think it's going to be something that's just going to go away overnight either. I think it's going to be a very long transitional process. But the financial aspect that comes with Steemit, I think, will be an ultimate winning factor in the war between social medias.
Definitely. And again, I think it'll be mostly the people who are wanting to create that will end up on Steemit. The people that are willing to go out there and do research and look up topics, and the people who really want to expand their minds and their experience. And then Facebook can kind of just be there as the the communication with your family, close friends, that type of thing. If you just want to say hello or whatnot, most likely you're going to use something like that versus Steemit, right?
Oh, for sure, absolutely. I personally find now too, I don't really get much enjoyment of just, if I was on Facebook and I went out to do something last night, I would put a couple pictures up or whatever and maybe write a quick little blurb. But I find when I come across Steemit, I'll put those same pictures up or those same little videos up, but I'll find myself wanting to go more in depth into conversation to explain what those pictures really mean, rather than just put a quick blurb about what they are. I find there's more reason for me to want to share my story. And the best part is I know that one day maybe there's somebody else out there that will find some sort of enjoyment out of that story as well.
Definitely. I think you said that perfectly, that Steemit makes you want to put in the effort to really show what you experience, and in turn that will make your experience that you had that much better, because you're going to want to take the time to really take in all the details while you're doing that trip or whatever, because you say, oh man, I'm going to make sure I want to blog about that when I get home.
For sure, it's opened up my eyes for when I'm doing different things to sort of get me out of that state where I'm just doing things to go through the motion. The other day at work, for example, we got a job where we had to drill a couple post holes and build a fence and a deck and whatnot. And I would have usually just gone to that, done the work, do what I got to do, this and that, make sure I get the job done, make sure it looks nice. But now having the opportunity to use Steemit and tell my story online, it gives me a newfound enjoyment for my job, because I find, I want to maybe set the machine up a little bit so I can get a nice looking picture, or I can stop and think about what I'm doing in my job, because I want to find a way to explain it to somebody that's going to potentially be looking at this post later.
Definitely. It makes your experiences, you want to put just as much effort into your experience, because you want to then in turn share it with other people. So I think that's a wonderful thing. I know I've had that happen to me a lot this summer. Anytime I've traveled at all, I made sure I had the camera with me, because I wanted to make sure I got some cool and interesting photos to talk about in my blog, and I wanted to make sure I even went to new places. I actually went hiking a few times this summer where I hadn't even done that in years, and it was because I wanted to go out and maybe find some things that I could blog about on Steemit. And of course some people will say, oh, well, you just want to make money or whatever. There's always going to be those people. But honestly, the money part of it for me is very minor. It's wonderful, it's there, it's of course a factor, but for me it's like these experiences I'm having and meeting the people afterwards from that is so rewarding.
Oh, absolutely. The financial aspect behind Steam, I think like you say, it is a big factor. But I think
it's
a lot
what brought
of people
us
get.
here. I mean, let's be honest. There's people out there that try to say that's not why they're
right?
here, but I'm pretty sure 99% of most people who joined Steemit joined because they thought they could maybe make some money.
Right, absolutely. And I think you find out really quickly that it's not a way to get rich quick. It's really not. I mean, if you come here with that attitude, And I personally found out myself when I first got here, I had some of those thoughts. Maybe this is the new thing, and I'll strike it rich. But the quicker you get those thoughts out of the way you manifest, the way you think about how you're going to use Steemit, the easier it becomes to clear your mind and come up with these original ideas, these original content, this original stuff that you can post about.
Definitely. So we're actually getting pretty close to near the end of the interview time here, so that's really great. Is there anything else you wanted to mention or talk about? Is there any posts that you've done recently or planning on doing that you wanted to mention to the listeners?
Yeah, I just wanted to, just one more time, I just want to bring up that the who's who. I'm thinking about maybe, with Sir Cork's idea of calling it maybe the phone book. Maybe we can somehow, if anybody is interested in having their name put on the list, maybe I can update it once every couple of days with new users. Because, I mean, I think we're reaching close to 5,000 users on the network here. So there's a lot of people that are out there. And now, granted, time zones, and you're not going to have those people all together all at the same time. In fact, it's not even really relatively close to that number, I find, that interact. But if there is anybody out there that wants to have their name put on the lists, just for the phone book list, just for ease of use to track people down while you're chatting in Discord, feel free to comment on the post or send me a DM with your cross-referenced names, and I'll throw it up on the new post there.
Definitely. All right, and I think that's a great idea, having that list of all the users on there who are, and I mean, if they're going to take the time to write to you to add them to that list, that probably means that they're pretty active, so that's a good thing, and so that's where that list will be useful. It will be the people who are actually reaching out to you, actually interacting.
For sure. There's nothing worse than joining in a chat, kind of figuring out what people are chatting about, and then having to stop and research who that person is on Steemit, and then go read the post, and then by the time you get back, they've moved on to a different topic. Maybe this could just be something that could streamline the process of getting more users involved in chatting about general topics.
Definitely. All right, any closing words for our fellow Steemians out there? Any parting words for them?
Just keep doing what you're doing. Keep helping new people out. Keep helping the minnows out. I know my biggest goal now is just to help people who are going through the things that I've just gone through, because I know it's not an easy thing. So, everybody that's helped give me support through my kickoff and my start here, keep doing what you're doing, because if it wasn't for you guys, like I say, I wouldn't be at the where I'm at today on this platform. So once again, a huge shout out to everybody that's interacted with me and taken the time to comment or upvote or engage in discussion. It's just been a huge kick in the butt for me to get me going, if that makes sense.
Definitely, and I just gave you a follow. I'm your now follower number, it looks like 458, so I just gave you your next follower number. So that is Digger Doug, everybody, here on Steemit Interviews with Main Event. You can find him. We'll post a link to his profile in the chat below. Digger Doug, thank you so much for joining today, and you're coming to us once again from Ontario, Canada, right?
You bet. Thanks for taking the time to have me on here. This, my first time ever being interviewed on a radio show, and I tell you what, I think you did a hell of a job. I mean, this was great. This was actually really, really great.
We appreciate it. So once again, that is Digger Doug, and this is Main Event signing off.